Hey, everybody, how you doing? Woo! Welcome to the PHLY Flyers Postgame Show presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
If you want, I'll do the whole show with the mask if you want. Probably an improvement.
BSing with Steve, totally forgot to put the mask on. But here we are. You know what?
Let's go.
I'll
put it on for a
we
little
should
bit.
throw the mask as a hat trick tribute to Scott Laughton.
Tossing that underdog for Scooty Lutz.
What a ridiculous game. Let's give another woo for that victory. 4-1 over those Detroit Red Wings. All 4 goals scored by the ultimate leader, Scott Laughton.
Scott Laughton. We all knew
Flyer
it.
for life, Scott Laughton.
We all placed the bets, beforehand saying Scott Laughton is going to score 3+ goals in this game. We knew it.
Unfreaking believable.
He's leader.
Honestly, we probably should have had a hunch that he was going to do this. He'd scored in, I think, 9 of his previous 11 games against the Red Wings. Had a bunch of 2-point games in there. But tonight, he comes out and scores not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. 4 freaking goals. And if you just, how ridiculous is this? Even with the empty netters, sure. 2 empty net goals, but you got to be out there in that situation. You have to earn the coach's trust. I, real quick before the show, checked out Flyers records on NHL.com.
I'm excited for this.
Guys with 4+ goals in a game as Philadelphia Flyers. The list here: John LeClair,
of course.
John LeClair, John LeClair, Eric Lindros, Kevin Dineen, Rick Tocchet, Tim Kerr, Brian Propp. Tim Kerr did it 3 times in one season. Rick McLeish did it 2 times in another. All Kerr, Flyers, man. Hall of Famers, champions, guys actually in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And now Scott Laughton.
Scott Laughton.
I am so happy for that.
He's a 4th line player.
Just
4 for 4 right there.
We talk all the time, Bet365. You got to download that app, whatever the moment.
Download that Scott Laughton hat trick every game. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Never ordinary at Bet365. And the Flyers themselves are never freaking ordinary. This was a pretty boring game for a lot of it.
Before we get into the game, I need to ask you, who's your most surprising not on that list of 4+ goal scorers?
I was thinking Wayne Simmons.
Wayne Simmons surprised me. Jeff Carter surprised me.
Jeff Carter. Maybe a Scott Hartnell, because he just had so many.
Especially the
he had a number of hat tricks, I do remember. We had those couple of years, 08, 09, where Hartnell had a few hat tricks, Carter had a few. So surprising there. Wayne Simmons, especially those last couple of years where he scored his last couple of 30-goal seasons, where we're using him more on the PK, using him at the end of games, so you get the empty net situations. And he was so streaky. I used to look at his game logs and be like, 7 games without a goal, he's scoring tonight. It was always 7. It was always 7, and then he'd score and have 4 in 3 games. But
that's our Wayne train.
Yeah, it was. That was a little surprising. But I don't think a Flyer has done it. I think on this list, 02-03, John LeClair was the last time it happened.
Been quite a bit of time.
It's been 20 years since the last guy. 21 years.
That's
in
Flyers
honor of number
right
21, Scotty Laughton. So that's
quality hockey.
That's right
there.
Flyers.
Quality hockey.
It's absolutely insane game. Charlie and I talk. I actually wrote it out in the Flyers game log and the situation of every game, and comes down to dramatic fashion, weird, crazy game in some way. Tonight, pretty boring for a lot of it. They're up 2-0, but then, of course, 4 minutes shy of his first career shutout, Aleksei Kolosov gives up a goal. But that opens up the opportunity for the Detroit Red Wings to pull the goalie. And then all of a sudden, it's not a 1-goal game. It's a 3-goal game, and all 4 goals by Scott. What a ridiculous performance for that guy.
My God, that's Scott Laughton's music right there. That's what we were all saying once that goalie came out. And it was also crazy because Cam Talbot apparently has unreal numbers against the Flyers, which I guess he's bitter about those 4 games he played once upon a time.
Yeah.
But it's so weird. Cam Talbot, who's in his mid-30s, just playing an all-star throughout this game. He made some unbelievable saves. The michkov save early on was unreal. And then the one he made on, I think it was Farabee later on with the blocker, might have even been more impressive somehow. And Cam Talbot just played
37 Cam Talbot.
37. And he's just playing unreal throughout that game. He had a great game. He was awesome. And Scott Laughton apparently is the one guy who can figure out Cam Talbot in this game.
Apparently, and he gets the first goal.
Oh, and also Michkov had the Michigan that almost went in.
Almost scored on a Michigan as well. No, but it was funny because the Flyers, a lot of this game, boring, not a ton of chances. Flyers are dominating in shots, and I'm like, when did these shots even occur? And then at some point in the second period, the floodgates kind of open, chances back and forth. Flyers had a few odd man rushes, a breakaway in there, get nothing. And then finally, Scott Laughton breaks loose, and he just goes, screw it, and rips a clapper. Like, speaking of John LeClaire, clapper on the rush.
That was vintage.
And that opens the scoring, and it was like, you know what? This guy's playing awesome. I'm just going to try to put it through him. And started a crazy night for him. He finally gets a shorty, maybe the power kill getting going tonight. That's on the Michkov penalty to start the third period. He had three of the four goals. Yeah, it was a battle off the face-off, and Mish isn't going to back down, but he probably needs to keep his hands down in that situation. He did sneak a little rabbit punch in there.
Sure, but
so
that's a ticky-tacky call, refs. Let him play.
Let him play. Especially considering, like, in this game, I think there's only 2 penalties called in this game. Yeah. Each team 0 for 1 on the power play, and the Flyers get a shorthanded goal, but it's an Edvinsson hooking in the second period against Frost. Flyers don't score on that one. And then 3 seconds into the third, Mish roughing against the Brinket. And those are the only penalties. This game flew, especially the first 2 periods. Absolutely. Having to do post games, it's nice when they're done at like 9:30. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
This is certainly no Seattle Kraken, West Coast, 1 a.m. bleary-eyed. That's for sure.
I am very happy for Scott Laughton because he takes a lot of heat from the fans because of the rumor a few years ago that they could have traded him for a first. And ever since then, Danny's been like, if you want Scott Laughton, you have to overpay, basically saying we ain't trading him. I've come to peace with it. It's just like, you know what? Scott Laughton's going to be a Flyer for life. He's going to play 1,000 games here. He is going to be the next Paul Holmgren. He's going to be GM, president, whatever the hell he wants to be. Scott Laughton is a Flyer for life. And I've made my peace. And
there's worse things to have out there because he has a reasonable contract. He's willing to play those 4th line minutes and not care. Like, he's cool with it. He knows that's his fate. He knows exactly what kind of player he is. Awesome clubhouse guy. Like, he's fantastic in the locker room. He's beloved by his teammates. He's like such a glue guy. You know, Scott Laughton, you're not going to get a first-round pick for him at this point, and I'm fine with it. It's cool. And to see him have a night like this, see a genuinely good guy who is pretty much universally beloved as far as like his toughness and everything. Like, yeah, you want him to do more offensively, sure. But to see him have this night, so satisfying.
And I think you see how much he's loved on the 4th goal. He's trying to do the right thing as a teammate. Like, listen, man, I got 3. Hands it to Garnett Hathaway. And Hathaway is like, abso-freaking-lutely not. You're never going to have another 4-goal game, Scott. No. He does have one other career hat trick. It's against Washington in 2021. And it's very funny now. He has 13 goals against Washington and now 13 against Detroit. Yeah. Blank there.
He is crushing Detroit.
He's at like 102 career goals. Over a quarter of his goals in the NHL are against 2 teams, one not in his division.
That's insane. And it's so funny that tonight he more than doubled his goal total on the season.
3 goals coming in, 7 coming out.
I guess Scott Laughton really hates Kiss.
There's something, man.
He sees the Detroit Red Wings and he's like, I am going to murder every one of you.
Yeah, maybe he, like all of us, just looks back at that 97 final and is heartbroken. Well, maybe he grew up a Colorado fan. You know, that brawl.
Yeah, I mean, I still have many scars thinking about 97. So I appreciate that. At any chance to beat up the Red Wings, I will take, because I'm still have a horrific grudge against the Red Wings, against the Blackhawks, any team that's beaten the Flyers and the Islanders, even though I wasn't alive at that point. Any team that's beaten the Flyers for a championship.
Look at them.
Well, they're gross. They're gross. They shouldn't exist. Yeah. Kick them out of the league. Come on, Gary. What are we doing?
Yeah, and I am elated for Scott Laughton. And it's honestly, it's a fun night. Like, that's one of the first things I want to ask Charlie is like, What's it like in the room after a night? Is everyone just like, listen, it's a long season, 82 games. No matter what you do for a living, it becomes a job. But on a night like tonight, it's probably a little like, Thursday night, mid-December. You might not be the most up you are all season. And then you have this, and it's just probably a lot of fun.
Well, especially you had that first period. And
yeah,
you and I are sitting there looking at each other like, I can't believe the Flyers
like
have
at least
as many shots in this game as they do. And, it's kind of like, it's a weird game. And then that slap shot is just everything. That slap shot awakened us.
I love it.
I jolted out of my seat. It was awesome.
It was a really fun night. It was a fun game. Really looking forward to talking to Charlie, see how everyone reacted in the post game. Before we go any further, though, I got to tell you about one of our sponsors. It's Game Time, baby. That's right. Game Time is the #1 place to get tickets for all events on that secondary market. Flyers heating up. Maybe you want to go see them. They have a few home games left before they head out on the Disney on Ice trip. Maybe you want to see them when they come back. Whenever it is, you got to see them. And get your tickets with Game Time. And with Game Time Picks, it's their newest feature, and it makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And all the old Game Time features that made it the best secondary ticket marketplace are still there. The all-in pricing, there's no surprise fees at the end. You toggle on all-in pricing, and you know what you're paying. You don't get that, oh man, it just went up $30 on fees when I'm already like, this is how much I'm going to spend. I'm going. That doesn't happen with Game Time. You get the seat views, so there's no surprise when you get to the event either. You have the low price guarantee, and you have the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And now it might be game time for you if you're thinking you need a little bit more hair on top of your head, and you got to do it with Glatt Hair Restoration, now under the direction of renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Ken Morgenstern. Some things have changed, like, the guy in charge, but you know what's the same? The peerless approach to care, the expert team, the unmatched Glatt system, the state-of-the-art location, and the stellar results, all the same under the direction of Dr. Morgenstern. And each member of the exceptionally trained team brings 30-plus years of experience. Hair restoration is all they do. Whether you need laser light therapy, non-invasive TED treatments, vitamin supplementation, topical or oral medications, PRP and stem cell restoration, or hair restoration surgery, you'll get a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment, because no one's hair is the same. No one's in the same stage of hair loss. So you have to check out Dr. Morgenstern and the Glatt Hair Restoration Center today, because bald is now optional. If you want to improve your life and how you look and how you feel about yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence. Visit glatthairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started today. Yeah, very, very excited for Scott Laughton, another player who really showed up tonight in a game where there weren't a lot of standouts outside of Scott Laughton. Aleksei Kolosov.
Aleksei Kolosov, the guy who's officially #2, the second banana in net back
on
there.
the day that we are told that he and Ivan Fedotov have been told the pecking order is Ersson, Kolosov, Fedotov at #3. He showed why. He showed some of that upside, some of that potential we're talking about pregame. Comes within, they score at 16:07. So with less than 4 minutes left in the game, Detroit wrecks what could have been the first career shutout. And Kelly, I didn't say it. I even didn't fill out Notion with the Kolosov part in it until after they scored, so I wouldn't jinx it. So Kelly, if you're in the comments, it wasn't me. It was the Flyers.
He didn't do anything. He didn't do squat. But if I'm blaming one person, I'm blaming Jim Jackson for this. And we all love Jim Jackson. He's a friend of the show right here. But Jim Jackson, just like a minute before that, said he stopped all 22 so far.
I think that's fair.
I mean, Jim Jackson was trying his best, but he
danced around it. I think if you don't say the word, it's okay.
I guess. But you know what? As soon as he said it, I knew it was coming. But Kolosov, 25 saves on 26 shots. Real good poise in net tonight. Biggest one. right after that first goal, this was a huge bounce back. He made an amazing glove save. That saves the game right there.
Yes.
Because that opens it up for Scott Laughton to get 2 empty netters from there. I mean, that's huge because that's a classic Flyers moment where the Flyers let up that goal to let the other team back in the game, and then they let them tie it like 30 seconds later. The Flyers do that so damn much. It is just a very Flyers thing to do. So for Kolosov to step in there, and he won the game with that save.
Yeah.
You know, it's not hyperbole to say that.
We have seen this team, no matter who is in net, blow a lot of leads this year. There are a lot of, and some of it's undisciplined play. There was, a couple bad calls maybe, but whatever the case, the Flyers have not been able to close out games like this kind of consistently. They're great at coming back. They have figured that part out. Forcing overtime, cool. But when they have the lead, it's been sketchy this year. Now, Detroit, they are one of these teams that it's like, they seem to be finding ways to lose a lot.
Sure, but they still have Vladimir Tarasenko, Dylan Larkin, like they have good names on that team.
All-time Flyers killer, Patty Kane.
We saw that last year with that crazy game that Detroit played against the Flyers. I believe that was the BSH Festivus game last year. Was
that the Festivus game?
I think it was the Festivus game, yeah. And it was just nuts. But Kane scored, I think, a couple times in that game.
Because I wanted to talk about this, and like after that first period, I'm like, what the hell are we going to talk about in postgame? This is a soccer game. It's all neutral zone hockey.
Yeah, it's just like he's holding the puck.
Holds. I looked up what they did last year because they played kind of a similar schedule with Detroit last year. On December 16th, Flyers beat the Wings 1-0, 32 save shutout for Sam Ersson, second of his career. And I kind of wanted to point to that if Kolosov finished it off. Then, they did it again. But no, he didn't. 3 games later, 12-22, the Flyers lose in Detroit 7-6. Detroit goes up 2-0 on 2 Patty Kane goals to start the game. Shane Gostisbehere eventually makes it 5-1 before the end of the first. Flyers get a couple back, make it 5-3 in the second. Get to the third, take the lead at 6-5, and then Dylan Larkin ties it. Basically carries the puck all the way to the end boards, turns it back and banks it off of Carter Hart to tie the game, and then Kane and Lucas Raymond score in the shootout to win 7-6. So I was like, boring game, low scoring, and then we play them like a week later. Let's see. But this one was a little different than that 1-0 game, but kind of played out similarly.
Are you trying to say take the over for the next meeting next week? Is that what you're trying to say? It sounds like what you're trying to say.
After it happened tonight, and only 2 penalties in this game, I feel like when teams play each other this close, it can get a little testy. We saw that with the last time they played Boston. They played them a few times.
I'm waiting for that DeBrincat and Michkov fight next time. I don't want Michkov to fight.
I really do.
But I kind of do at the same time.
I want to see
feisty.
him.
I really like we were so worried, he's going to be this just like high maintenance goal scorer and everything. And he comes in and this dude is just like getting in everybody's face. He doesn't even speak the language. He just doesn't care.
I mean, like there is always that like perception, the stereotype that a lot of the skill players are, they're perimeter players, but
Ovechkin's been nailing guys for years.
Ovechkin fought Mike Richards in a preseason. He basically won the 2016 playoff series against the Flyers in the first period by knocking Sean Couturier out, with a big hit. He's been that kind of guy. And we talk about Malkin. He's just dirty.
Yeah, Malkin's
he's just dirty.
His stick around like a sword.
Yeah, it's not.
He's a lunatic.
It's not crazy to think that he could be one of these guys that he's more than willing to mix it up.
And the thing is, it's Russia, right? Why are we surprised about this? Russia is one of the harshest environments to live in. Of course, these guys are going to be badasses. So, yeah, I'm very happy with just how feisty Matvei Michkov has been. Yeah, is it technically a dumb penalty he took tonight?
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
But at the same time, you kind of like to see it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't back down from people. They were trying to get into his face and get into his head in preseason. He didn't take it. He just gave it back as he got it.
Yeah, and that's we saw that right after we finished pregame. I went out, turned the game on, and it's still the Flyers broadcasts pregame. And I caught the tail end of an interview with Michkov. And they just asked, one of the final questions was, how you dealing with the physicality? You're getting some rough treatment in the NHL, the veterans trying to get to you. And it's there was a couple answers before that. It's back and forth with him and the interpreter. He just says 2 words. interpreter goes, "It's hockey." Like,
Love it.
He seems to really thrive in this, and he doesn't pick up a point tonight. That's a bummer. We did bet him to score a power play point. There was only one power play in the game. They don't convert. Such is life. But I'm expecting him to pick it right back up next time, because that's what he does. Back to Aleksei Kolosov, his performance tonight. Like you said, 25 saves, 26 shots. I wonder if this now, like, it seems as if, unless, goalie injuries could always happen, Fedotov could get in, have another great game like he did in that Tampa game, give himself new life. But it's kind of settled, at least for the time being. Yeah. I wonder if this is, okay, weight off the shoulders. I am an NHL goalie now. Like, they just told it's not as if this was just an internal conversation. John Tortorella told the media, oh, yeah, I sat down with Ivan and told him he's the number 3. Like, Kolosov's the backup. He's starting tonight.
And Torts is a guy that he's not going to say that unless he wants to. We always think of him as this hothead, but there's a lot of calculation.
He's very savvy.
Yeah, he's very savvy.
He's not dumb.
He plays a lot of games through the media, so he knew what he was doing when he said this. And he wasn't playing a game, I don't think. Like, I think this is just flat out, he's the guy. This is our plan. That's how we're doing it.
He has liked Kolosov better from the start.
And it's I think it's all the technical aspects, because Kolosov just looks like a traditional goalie. He plays regular butterfly goaltender.
And you see the athleticism tonight. Like, he was helped. I did think he was helped a little. Some of Detroit's best chances missed the net. But there's a couple where it's, he got there. Like, there was a great read he had on a cross-ice pass where he was back up against the far post before the pass even got there. And it was like, that would have been a great save if he had reacted later, but it just ended up bouncing off of his logo because he had read it. I think he's got a lot of potential. We are going to see plenty more games where it's like, ooh, that's a rough goal. That's a rough couple he gave up tonight. That's going to happen. Because it happens to every goalie, especially young ones. But for right now, I'm liking what I'm seeing.
Say what you will about this Frankenstein's monster of a team that the Detroit Red Wings are, but like, they have goal scorers, as I said. Like, they can score goals. They can score on you. So to only allow the one goal and get that win, that's a big win. I mean, these are the kind of games that the Flyers are going to have to eke out. And like, Detroit is a team that their record's worse than the Flyers, but it's not that much worse than the Flyers. So it's a team around the Flyers level. So they're going to be chippy. I mean, we just saw this with Columbus too, where the Flyers dominated that game, but Columbus still made it closer than it should have been at the end. And the goaltender to come in and just really secure the win like he did tonight, that's huge. And this is a big confidence booster for Aleksei Kolosov, and I really hope he can build on this as the season goes on.
Listen, they're going to need someone to grab the reins of this goaltending position at some point. I like Sam Ersson a lot. I'm really looking forward to him getting his shot and, like, show me. I think he's an NHL goalie. I think he's proven that. Is he a number 1? Is he a tandem guy? Is he best suited in his role before it became 50-50 with Hart last year, like more of a backup who gives you really good backup minutes, tandem, whatever. But they definitely don't have a proven number 1.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit pregame too. I mean, more in regards to the backup position than necessarily number 1, but it goes hand in hand, where they have so many different names, so many different irons in the fire right now with Zivgragan. I always mess up saying his name, but you know who I mean. Carson Bjarnson. There are just a lot of guys around right now, and you throw Kolosov in there and Ersson, who's still young, and who's going to win out? It's nice to have the competition there, but it's going to be real murky for 2-3 years until we figure this out.
No, there's going to be a lot of moving pieces. You have to wonder now what becomes of Ivan Fedotov. That's going to be part of my question for Charlie, but I'm sure that'll be more of a tomorrow's show conversation when we're able to really sit down and kind of talk it out. So tune in for that. Make sure you're here at 4 o'clock for our regular show tomorrow. Before Charlie comes aboard, I want to hit the rest of these, starting with Rite Aid. That's right. It's the holiday season, and the last thing you want to be is freaking sick, man. It sucks. You can feel it coming this time of year. You wake up, your throat's a little scratchy, whatever it might be. You just got the sniffles. You got to help protect yourself from all sorts of this time of year sicknesses, including pneumonia. And adults age 50 and older are now eligible for the pneumonia vaccine at Rite Aid. Used to be 65, but the CDC lowered the age recommendation to 50. So now millions more people people can get the pneumonia vaccine because millions of people get pneumonia every year. It's a respiratory illness, and this time of year is when germs that cause respiratory disease typically spread more in the community. So now's the time to get vaccinated and help yourself stay healthy, because some people get pneumonia, it's mild, it's not that big a deal. Others experience very serious complications, and the vaccine is one of the best ways to help keep yourself healthy, and it's usually no cost with your insurance. So getting vaccinated is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule online at riteaid.com. And if you're unsure of what other vaccines you might need, just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. Stop by your local Rite Aid today. And should have started with this so we could bookend it, but 1-800-588-2300 Empire
Today.
With Empire Today, you get that shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and that price match guarantee. You know the Empire philosophy. They want to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. Empire's product team is the best in the business, and they exhaustively comb through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And you can see all those styles with the virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. Just snap a picture, instantly see how new floors will look in your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details. Okay, the lineup change that we saw tonight, it was Emil Andrae coming out, at least for one night, as a healthy scratch, and Egor Zamula making his return. He's been out for a little bit. He's kind of fallen into more of a rotation after being more of a staple, especially in the second half last year. Tonight, we see the defense kind of spread around the minutes again, which is great to see. Sanheim only plays 22, basically a night off for him. Zamula plays 1809 in his return, 26 shifts, doesn't record a point, gets one shot on goal. No one really outside of Scott Laughton and Kolosov stood out tonight, so it's not like, Zamula didn't do much. Like, who did? Right. Who did? You know, like,
honestly, on defense, I'll take didn't do much because, usually if you're noticeable on defense, it's a problem. It means you're Andrew McDonald starfishing out there or something like that. So, and, Ristolainen, I think, actually had a pretty nice game too. Ristolainen made some nice plays around the Flyers' net.
He did. I thought he was very good tonight.
Zamula was paired up with Risto tonight, so I think that's a successful night from the two of those guys. And that's really nice considering how Zamula started the season. 1809.
It was rough.
It was a very rough start. And 1809 shows a lot of faith in your ability to playing the second pairing, because you could easily throw Drysdale and Sealer on the second. I know you're still feeling out Drysdale since he returned, but, if you're not sure about Zamula, you throw him on that third pairing easily. So to see him play competently is a great turnabout, and very encouraging.
That speaking of encouraging, I have been really hammering they need to trade Rasmus Ristolainen ASAP because, in his first 3 seasons in Philly, he missed 30% of the games. That tells me he gets hurt a lot.
Yes, correct.
And some of these mystery injuries, it's like, we don't really, a couple of years ago when he started the season, it was like, I don't know. And finally he came back, and last year it was, he's day to day, and now he's week to week, and now he's never coming back. Right. We'll see if he's healthy to start the year. No one has any freaking idea. He leaves the game with like 13, 14, or leaves the ice wincing with like 13 and a half minutes remaining in the third. He may have missed a shift in there, just looking at the ice time chart. But
we love charts, people. We love charts.
It's really funny when you say stuff like that. But he's basically in the regular rotation. After that, he's out there to close the game. I guess he's okay. That's cool. They're showing on the broadcast tonight a lot of good defensive plays he made. Solid. Really, really enjoying Rasmus Ristolainen right now.
It's wild to think about that he's one of the more enjoyable, reliable defensemen out there. And I was relieved when he came back in. If I thought 2 years ago I'd be saying that, I would have thought I was crazy. But here we are thinking that. And Boucher talked about him glowingly quite a bit tonight. It was nice. And I agree. Let's trade him while that value is high and he's not hurt. I'm convinced, I said this to you earlier tonight, but I'm convinced it's this 4 Nations tournament. That's when something's going to happen to Risto.
It's going to screw somebody. Why wouldn't, given the Flyers' luck.
And we got, currently 3 guys in there. We got TK, we got Sandheim, the Travi.
2 of our 3 most important guys and our most valuable trade piece.
Yeah, no big deal. It's going to be fine. There's no way it works out poorly for this, I don't know, imaginary contest they've made up.
I kind of like it.
I kind of like it too, but also I don't like it messing with my season. But
also
the Flyers aren't winning the Cup, so who cares?
I don't, but if anyone's seen an All-Star game lately, this is a much better alternative.
100%.
Like, if you've watched an NHL All-Star game recently, first of all, sorry.
Yeah,
what the hell are you doing?
Did you not find something better to do with that day?
Like, read a book. Just stare at a wall. Like, the year Giroux won MVP, I was like, hey, how about that? I saw it on Twitter. I didn't watch any of the game.
Yeah, I think you just watch an old Flyers game and have a much better use of your time.
I also think, like, when Risto really started to look good again, we have some defensive injuries. Cam York's down. All of a sudden, Risto goes from, he's our 5 or 6. He's on the 3rd pair and, playing good D, but that's all we're really asking of him. Suddenly, he's playing with Sandheim and looks real good, 20-plus minutes a night. But it's, all right, man, like, Sandheim's awesome now. Yeah. He's really good. Then he's playing with Emil Andrae, and we're really, really excited about what we're seeing out of Emil Andrae, despite, maybe not playing so well the last couple of games, at least in the coach's eyes. Tonight, it's Egor Zamula. Now, I like Zamula. I think he's a perfectly fine 3rd pair, number 7. But he ain't carrying any defensive pair. Like, you can't go, Rasmus, he's being carried by his partner on a night where he's playing with Egor Zamula, but he stood out again. And I think that says, like, he is actually playing some really good hockey.
Right. I don't think you can, even for a second, or even jokingly claim that a guy who basically people were saying was only on the roster to be best friends with the star player at the beginning of the season was carrying a guy.
Yeah, we can't trade him. We can't waive him for the simple fact of he's BFFs with michkov.
Who else is going to speak to Matvey in his language if this guy isn't here? But maybe I think Matvey's figured it out.
Maybe they're going to transition Fedotov to full-time interpreter.
I think that would be a great use of his
Might be a great use of that, at least while you're paying him. You might as well get something out of him.
Why not?
I really am interested to see how this plays out. And also, as you mentioned pregame, like,
they got a lot of guys.
Cam Talbot played for this team in a year they used 8 goalies. There's a real possibility we need 3 goalies again at some point in the near future. So it's not like it's over for Fedotov.
And my biggest concern there is Sam Ersson. Sam Ersson's had a lot of injury issues to start the season, which is really concerning because Sam Ersson, he had a rough time in the second half of last season. And I chalked a lot of that up to not being ready for the workload because nobody expected the Hart ruling to come down mid-season like it did. And it really kind of screwed everything up. And Ersson, clearly was having trouble like with the fatigue and everything in the second half. But now it's injuries. And I don't know if that's related to that or what, but it's concerning.
It is.
I would like to see a nice stretch from Ersson of healthy play before breathing a sigh of relief.
And now we are joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center. Charlie, I just have to, thoughts on the game, any standout post-game comments?
Yeah, I have thoughts on the game. This was the Scott Laughton game. I don't think it takes a brilliant writer to pick out what the story from this one is. And Laughton, I don't think Laughton's been terrible this year. The offense probably hasn't been as much as he would want or as much as I think fans would want. But I think he's been playing fine overall. I don't think he's been dramatically underachieving, but obviously he jumped from 3 goals on the season to 7 in one game. That's he's literally over doubled his goal total. This was the Scott Laughton game. The Flyers score 4 goals. Scott Laughton scores all of them. That was really cool to see. And one thing that was really neat, I think, in the locker room was just getting a read on how happy the guys were for him. It's no secret that he is kind of the heart and soul of the team. He's not the captain, but he's obviously wearing an A, and he is sort of, that glue guy that everyone loves. Sean Couturier calls him today, one of the best teammates he's ever had. Travis Konechny more or less echoed it. Laughton himself just said it, it really meant a lot because obviously he got the belt after the game. The ovation that he got was very loud and very long because we could hear it from outside the room. And I think this was the thing John Tortorella said as well, was just that there's not a nicer guy that a game like this could have happened to. And I don't want to even say a game like this could have happened to, because that makes it seem like it happened to him. He went out and he played a really good game. Obviously that first goal, and he even admitted it, like it was kind of a, I've been watching all the saves that Talbot's making. Might as well just go up there and blast away and see what happens. It's a great shot. It goes right off the crossbar. And then the second goal, they've been struggling on the penalty kill. They've been struggling not only to prevent goals, but also last year they had 16 shorthanded goals. This year going into tonight, they had 1 through nearly 30 games. Like, that's an aspect of their team that was integral to their success last year that just hasn't been there this year. So that was huge, to get that power kill back going again at a key moment. And then the empty net goals, that's just to me, it feels like almost like a karmic reward for all of the things he does on and off the ice for this team. He gets the first one, and apparently, the hockey gods weren't done with him, because they give him a second one and tried to give it up to Garnet Hathaway, but Garnet Hathaway was like, no chance. You're getting this fourth goal. So apparently, it's the first 4-goal game. We were talking about it on the way down to the locker room. One of the reporters discovered it was like the first 4-goal game by a Flyer since John LeClair in 2002, which is wild.
02-03,
yeah, which is wild that it's been that long. Like, I thought to myself, did Wayne Simmons ever get 4? I remembered that Couturier only got 3. It was like, did Simmer ever get 4? Apparently not. Apparently it was John LeClair, and then before that it was the Yuri Dopita 4-goal game, that famous one, because we weren't sure if that might be the most recent, but apparently LeClair's came after that. In any case, really good to see from a Flyers perspective, because this was a game that they outplayed the Red Wings, especially I would say the second period. First period was pretty even. They got the better play in the second half of the first period. Second period, they took them to the cleaners. Third period, look, they could do a better job at closing out games. Aleksei Kolosov makes that big save. I'd like for him not to ever have to make that big save to keep it tied, but all's well that ends well. They end up winning this game in convincing fashion, both on the stat sheet and on the scoreboard, and obviously, huge night for Scott Laughton.
Now, Charlie, we need you to find out what the city of Detroit did to Scott Laughton to make him play so aggressively against them. Like, did he go into a Little Caesars and the hot and ready pizza wasn't hot and ready?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes you just have a team that you I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it, you see red against, and it is the Red Wings. So perfect team to do that to.
It's just wild to me. He now has 13 goals in 20 games against Detroit, a non-division team. Like, it's not a team. Like, he has 13 against Washington, but he's played 37 games against them. He has no more than 5 against anyone else. How do you have like a quarter of your goals? He crossed the 100-goal mark tonight. I think it's now like 102. 26 of his goals against 2 teams. Like, how do you describe? What makes that happen? It's insane.
Bill, I don't know why you ask me these questions, because my answer is going to be, it's a fluke and it's just fun. There is no actual answer. The universe is random and chaotic. Like, that's always going to be my answer, because there is no explanation. Like, sometimes the puck bounces your way, and it just bounces way a lot against the Red Wings, and he's had really good games against this team. Like, I'm thinking back to that crazy game a few years ago near Christmas. Was it last season, I believe?
Yes.
Where he was like by far the best player on the ice, and this was coming after a month where he was barely doing anything. So, I don't know. I don't think there's anything to it, but it's certainly fun to talk about.
I ask you, Charlie, because I need that answer. Everyone loves nihilist Charlie. We need to get more of it. You mentioned that big Kolosov save. He ends up stopping 25 of 26. He's 4 minutes shy of his first career shutout. So today, John Tortorella, not just internally, but says out loud to the media, Aleksei Kolosov, he's our number 2. I've told Fedotov he's 3rd in the pecking order. Were you surprised they kind of said it out loud?
A little, but this is something that I feel like once Torts has had the conversation with the player, he doesn't really have a problem having the conversation with the media. Look, you could, I guess, evaluate this as being strategic, because obviously the unspoken truth is that there are concerns that Kolosov could run back to Belarus, to the KHL, if the Flyers try to send him down. In all honesty, though, I don't think that's what this is. I think what this is at its core, and I think like Danny Briere is perfectly fine with it that it played out this way, but I think what this is at its core is that right now, John Tortorella trusts Aleksei Kolosov more than he trusts Ivan Fedotov. Like, Sam Erson's the number one. That's not changing unless Kolosov plays really well for a couple months, the way that Erson did last year with Carter Hart. But you saw it in that game against Florida. That would, to me, was like the light bulb moment where it was just like, oh, this is how Tortorella views these two goalies. Because I'm not saying Fedotov played well in that first period. He didn't. He didn't look sharp. But if Sam Ersson had given up those same 2 goals and had the exact same first period, he doesn't get pulled. They're only down 2-0. Neither of those goals were horrible. You know, he could have stopped them, but neither of them were so leaky that you have to get the guy out of there. The fact that he pulled Fedotov, made the decision to do so, told me he doesn't have confidence in Fedotov. And the fact that he did it to put Kolosov in, and by the way, Kolosov didn't play that well in relief either. He gives up a real bad goal in the third period. But guess what? 2 nights later, it's Kolosov in net, not Fedotov. That, to me, was the telltale sign of John Tortorella trusts one guy and he doesn't trust the other. Or he trusts one guy more than the other. And I think from that point on, then it just becomes, okay, well, John Tortorella is the coach of the team. He's picked his guy. And let me put it this way. If Tortorella had decided that he trusted Fedotov more than Kolosov, I think Danny Briere would have had the conversation with Kolosov's camp. I mean, look, we're not going to keep 3 goalies forever. We're going to send you down. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay up here? We would rather you stay up here, but this is what we're going to do because we can't carry 3 goalies forever, and our coach trusts the other guy more than you. Now that it seems like it's the other way around, it actually works out pretty well for the Flyers because I would assume eventually they're going to send Fedotov down. Unless this changes, unless, one of the 2 top guys gets injured. Obviously, there's still questions about Erson because he's coming off a big injury. Maybe don't want to do it yet in case that there's another recurrence of that. At some point, they're probably going to send Fedotov down. And because of his contract, there's a very, very small chance he's going to get claimed. Whereas with Kolosov, there was obviously no chance he's going to get claimed because he's waiver exempt, but there's a chance he might just disappear. Now, by keeping Kolosov as the 2 and knowing that Fedotov almost certainly isn't going to get claimed, that does help your organizational goalie depth for this year. Because that means that, okay, well, we've picked our 2, and if one of those 2 get hurt, we can just immediately bring Fedotov right back up. No problem. Whereas if you were to pick Fedotov as your 2 and then you send Kolosov down, he goes back to the KHL, you're not going to grab him back. If Erson suffers a 2-week injury, then you've got to call up Cal Peterson. That's not a good solution. So it actually, I think, works in the Flyers' favor that it seems like it's playing out this way. But I don't think this was mandated by the GM. I think this is driven by the fact that the head coach just trusts Kolosov more than Fedotov right now. And honestly, tonight, he showed why, because he played really well.
So the way we've been evaluating Kolosov, I feel like we've done a lot of, well, for his age and in this situation, he looks like he's keeping his head above water. But now that he's the official number 2 goaltender for this team, is that kind of changing the way you're going to evaluate him?
I don't think so. I think I was evaluating him the same way. I still think he would benefit most by being down in the AHL. He's a very young goalie. He's still raw. He's still learning. I think his best place would be in the AHL. But at the very least, over these last few games especially, he's showing that he's good enough to be in the NHL. Now, whether this is the best spot for him, unclear. I would probably rather have him in the AHL. That said, I think this spot is good enough for him because I think he can play well enough to at least hold his own. And honestly, this game and the what was it? The St. Louis game. What was the last game he played that he was pretty good in? What game was that? There are so many games they all blend together. The last start that he had, he was good in that game too. I think he's been fine. He's been a perfectly fine backup goalie. Hopefully, he keeps developing from there.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up his game log now. He was, the Florida game, he came in relief. Oh, the St. Louis game, he stopped 25 of 27. He stopped 25 of 27 at Nashville. That was kind of his really good run. So, it was really just that Florida game where both goalies kind of stunk. And feels
that's a good offense, too.
Yeah, it feels like, as Charlie said, they made the decision from there. What did you make of the decision to sit Andrae tonight, Charlie? And, of course, Torts' comments about your comments. Did you feel like you were in a hall of mirrors at that point?
I mean, whatever. Like Torts is just having fun.
Yeah,
I treated it out because I thought it was funny. And Torts then like he has that comment and then he looks over at me and smirks as the next question's being asked. So he was just having fun too. I don't know if that means if that's just a reaction to one of the questions I may have asked a few weeks ago, or if he's actually reading my articles. I don't know. But hey, if he's a PHLY diehard, it's another reason for you to be a PHLY diehard. In any case, no, I don't think Emil Andrae should be scratched. I don't think he's playing poorly enough to be scratched, but I can't get angry at it really because guys can benefit from a developmental standpoint by sitting for a game or two. Like, it's not going to kill them if he has to sit up there. Maybe it motivates him a little bit more. You know, it's okay. Well, there are a couple of things they've been working with me on. Maybe I haven't been responding as well as they want to the feedback. So I got to go out there when I get back in and play better. It's certainly, at the very least, it hasn't hurt Matvei Michkov. You could certainly argue it's helped him. Now he's playing really, really well, especially at 5-on-5, much better than he was prior to the scratch. So I can't get mad at it. That said, I do think Emil Andrae is one of their best defensemen. So I don't think it's a great idea to keep for the long term. Like, if they're doing it because they think Egor Zamula is better than Emil Andrae, then it's wrong. If they're doing it because they think Emil Andrae will benefit in a game or two when he gets back in and be a better player than he's been over the last 2 weeks, fair. But Andrae is one of their 4 best defensemen in my eyes, especially if, maybe if Jamie Drysdale keeps playing well, maybe he can push Andrae down. And then maybe you have to have a conversation of, well, does Andrae fit here? You know, right now, maybe you send him back down. We've gotten, I'd say, 2 very good games of Drysdale. 1 game tonight that was fine, wasn't amazing, wasn't bad. I'm not ready to bump Jamie Drysdale up into a top 4 role. And I certainly don't feel comfortable with Egor Zamula in a top 4 role. Risto, strong game tonight. Fine with him in a top 4 role. But Andrae, to me, is the only other defenseman that fits in that role. And his results, the numbers, say that he's been a good top 4 defenseman this year, John. So I would say get him back in as soon as possible. But that's just my opinion.
Shots fired, Charlie, going right for Tortsy over there. So just focusing on tonight, though, how do you think Zamula played back in the lineup?
I thought he was okay. To me, that was Risto. Risto carried that pair. He was really good, and really from the jump. I mean, he had that first period was sloppy and dull and boring. I thought Ristolainen was maybe the only player on either team, only skater, who I thought was noticeably good. He made a bunch of good defensive plays, was very disruptive. Then he kicks off the second period by blowing up Michael Rasmussen, who is like 6'6". Like, that is peak Ristolainen. And I thought he was the driver of that pair. Zamula didn't make any obvious errors, but he still plays too slow for my liking. Like, I'm fine if you want to have Zamula in there as your 6, but if you're trying to sell him to me as your number 3 or your number 4 on your second pair, I'm just not buying it. Andrae I can buy. Zamula I can't.
Last one from me before stars, Charlie. How bad does the media want Michkov to score a Michigan so you can ask Torts about it?
I don't. The funny thing is that, like, I really don't care. I really don't. It's not a terribly interesting story to me of, like, what does John Tortorella think about the Michigan? I don't give a crap, but a lot of people give a crap. So it's less about me wanting it to happen so that we can ask the question, and it's more about me wanting it to happen so people will stop obsessing over what Torts thinks about it.
That's awesome. See, I love setting Charlie up for this stuff. All right, Chuck, it is now time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. Hit us with star number 3.
Star number 3, I thought about going with Cam Talbot here because I thought he was really, really good. But I'm going to go with Ristolainen because of that. He had a really strong game. I thought he was, maybe the Flyers' best player in the first half of the game. Scott Laughton was obviously their best player in the second half of the game, or at least best skater. But Ristolainen I thought was strong. And to me, it's even more impressive that he did it without Andrae as his partner, because when Andrae is his partner, Andrae can do most of the puck moving. Ristolainen strikes me as more of the support guy on that pair rather than the driver. When he's paired with Zamula, Ristolainen has to become the driver, and I saw him doing more with the puck tonight. He was just making more obvious plays rather than just being the guy in support, and he looked really good doing it. So for that reason, he's my 3rd star.
I think we can figure the rest of these out, but hit us with star number 2.
Yeah, star number 2 is Aleksei Kolosov. Great game. That save he makes it was probably with about like 3 minutes left. It's right after they score the goal that cuts it to 1. It's on our old pal Eric Gustafsson. That save is enormous. Like, I made a joke going down the elevator that if this game, given the way the Flyers played and how dominant they were on the shot counter, especially in the second period, if this game would have went into overtime, I was throwing my laptop off the press box. Like, I would have been so mad, because it was just like, there's no reason why we should have to be covering it overtime. The Flyers should be way ahead in this game, and the fact that they almost blew it is something they have to work on, because, even the Columbus game, they dominated that game. The fact that it ended in 5-3 rather than 5-1, like, yeah, just bear down and close these games out without giving anybody heart attacks. But Kolosov came through. That is not an easy save. Kolosov makes a big save there. He really made big saves the entire game. Even the second period that the Flyers completely dominated in the second half of the second. First half of the second period, he made some tough stops. He made some big saves. And Kolosov, it's a bummer he doesn't get the shutout, because he, again, played well enough to get the shutout. But I think everybody in that room knows how well he played. For that reason, he's my second star.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Who is tonight's first star?
First star, obviously, Scott Laughton. I mean, come on. Four goals. Look, two of them were empty netters, but he played a really good game. It was funny, actually. John Tortorella said after the game that he didn't think that line played well. He thought Laughton played well. Little shade at Ryan Paley and Garnet Hathaway, but Laughton was great. On the PK, gets the big shorthanded goal. Obviously, is the one who finally breaks through on Talbot, which was huge. I mean, look, any goal is huge, especially when it's a tie score. But Talbot was getting to the point where it was like, how are we going to beat this guy? And then Laughton breaks that air of invincibility by blasting that slap shot by him on the power play, or on the breakaway. That makes it seem like suddenly this game is winnable. That it's not like they're just facing off against the hot goalie. It's like, oh, Laughton beat him. We're good. We got this. And then Laughton scores another one. Then he gets the two fun empty net goals. Just a feel good game all around. Happy for Scott Laughton. For that reason, he's the obvious first star of the game.
He absolutely is, Charlie, but you are our number one star beat writer. Don't you forget it. That is Charlie O'Connor. He will be back with us tomorrow at 4 o'clock for our regularly scheduled Friday show. Make sure you tune into that. Until then, Chuck, take it easy, my friend.
All right. See you guys.
I can't believe, because I remember Yuri Dopita's 4-goal game, and
I think we've all blocked this out of our head, Bill.
It's not on the. I got the Skater Records 4-goal games from it's the Flyers and NHL.com. So you'd think they would have remembered, but
do you think Charlie O'Connor is gaslighting you?
No, I have it right here, and I remember this. It was against Atlanta. Yeah, so it's January 8th, 2002. So that's the 01-02 season, and Leclerc's last one, of course, against the Habs. Why wouldn't it be?
Of course, he destroyed his
killed them.
Team. That's one of my favorite examples of a guy just destroying a certain team.
But I
that team
understood the
motivation
him.
there.
Yeah.
They traded him. Yeah,
he won a cup there, and then they trade him. That's something to be mad about.
Scott Laughton just is mad on behalf of all of us in Flyers Nation for the 97 finals, and that's why he's the truest Flyer on this team.
Leclerc's was, October 15th, 02, so it's the following fall. So that was the last one. But for some reason, Yuri Dopita's 4-goal game not listed on that graphic I found earlier. I blame NHL.com, as we do for many, many things here. How are we doing on Super Chats, Bran? 8. So let's hit those Super Chats. All right, the first one from Devin93 says, technically speaking, does 4 goals count as a hattie? Well, yeah, because you score the hat trick and then you get one more. The hat trick has already occurred.
The hats were tossed, my friend.
Yeah, it's a
hattie plus.
Yes.
Yeah.
And typically I would say I would never throw my hat for an empty netter. Now, Wayne Simmons in the playoffs to, force a game 7, sure. But regular season game, maybe not. Scott Laughton, I think he deserves that. And it is the 1-goal game variety where he gets the hat trick. So that is, I always say empty netters are like saves in baseball. Yeah, man. Sometimes you're up 3 and the bottom of the order is up. Sometimes you clinch the World Series. And it's just a little bit different. But an empty netter, you sealed the game. You ended it and won it, and that's what he did tonight.
We also both really love hats, so it's a little harder for us to throw a hat than, say, somebody who isn't quite as attached to his hat.
The years I had a ticket plan for the Flyers, I brought,
A spare.
Like it was like a giveaway, like an orange like beanie or something that was a giveaway hat.
Oh, I have a perfect giveaway that I need to start bringing with me to games.
I brought just in case, but never caught a hat trick. All right, let's see this next one from Gritsy Ross. I now get it. I was saying Gritty Ross for a while, and they were like, but now I get it's like Betsy Ross, but Gritsy Ross.
Exactly.
I understand now. Here's hoping Laughton doesn't pull a Thornton. Well,
that's something we can't say on air.
Who among us wouldn't want to see that, honestly?
You know, you're gonna do what you're gonna do there.
Everyone celebrates.
Honestly, I mean, let your freak flag fly is what I say.
Everyone celebrates differently. I would never discourage anyone from living their best life.
Yeah, especially Scout Law.
Yeah, especially, he's earned it. All right, Corey. Super chat from Corey. If there's something more badass than a bar down slapper on a breakaway, then I don't know what it is. That was like, I mean,
that's hockey.
John DeClaire, baby. Yeah, I just think.
Oh, Johnny Vermont did that stuff all day, and I miss it. So to see somebody do that, it brought me back. It was like in Ratatouille, like you're just like seeing yourself as a child. That was me.
I always just like in middle school, high school practices twice a week. Everyone always started all the skating drills, all the hard stuff, all the cardio. And then for Clearview practices, the beginning of practice becoming easy. All right, everyone in the corner, slap shots over the blue line. And that was the drill. And it was my favorite thing. Like I never had a slap shot, so it like sucked for me personally, but it was the beginning of the easy drills. And it was always just like, in what circumstance am I going to be carrying the puck over the blue line and then just rip a slapper? It's like, well, in this circumstance, maybe I should have tried it. I would have had more than 20 career goals in 20 years. But well,
it wasn't like, Couturier was trying to go 5-hole.
Yeah.
Michkov tried this amazing one-timer. Farabee had a great shot. None of the fancy stuff was working. So Scott Laughton was like, I'm just going to blast it. It was great.
Sometimes you just have to go hit my best pitch. I'm going to put everything on this I can, and if you stop it, you stop it. He put it in the right spot. That was so cool. It's one thing, like it's great to see him score a shorty, him and TK hook up, and like Charlie said, that was a big part of how they generated offense last year. It hasn't quite been there. They've had some chances. They've attacked a little, but it hasn't quite been the same. Maybe this gets them going a little bit. And that was a really good... I'm happy that they were disciplined outside of the one Mish penalty, and they end up getting the shorty.
And I still think it was weak.
But the one, it was a little weak, but you can't do that.
Very weak.
You can't do that.
Very weak.
It's
coming for you, referees.
Don't punch a guy. Especially in a one-goal game.
It was like a Braden Shen punch.
I know. I'm just like, don't punch the guy. Clearly, the refs are looking for Michkov. Like, I feel like that is very obvious, and he has slipped in a few jabs here and there. He got Celebrini. He had that one last game before the officials started trying to permanently damage his hearing.
I love him. Like, let him just do his thing. Let him punch whoever he wants to punch. He's Matt Michkov. Let him punch people.
I'm all for it.
He can punch me.
Don't do that. But yeah, it was certainly badass, and hopefully we start seeing a few more shorthanded goals, because who doesn't love a shorty?
Dude, I missed the power kill.
And that's a good power play. Like, say what you want about Detroit, they freaking stink. They're at like 25%. They are a good power play, which makes sense. You have, can Kane and Tarasenko do what they did at 5-on-5? Probably not anymore. But standing still, shooting and passing, they're pretty good.
They have some god-awful names on defense, but they have some very good names on offense.
All right, let's see this next one here from JH. And before we go any further, I want to thank our TV audience. If you're watching on any of the channels that we're on now, thank you very much. Check out the rest of the show at allphly.com as we finish up the Super Chats. All right, JH here. Oh, captain, alternate captain, my alternate captain. I get it. I always thought when they showed us the actual naming of Coots as captain, I think it was on the Standard or something. They like looked back to the prior season and were like, this is him getting named captain. And Torts just goes like, listen, obviously Scott Laughton, he's the ultimate leader of this team, but we're going to be giving the seat to Coots. Like, even then he had to be like, Laughton's the captain.
He's the captain, but
we're going to name
the captain, but Laughton's the captain.
I am always, because I've started to get some comments like the room can't play. Like he's great in the room, but guess what? The room can't play. And I do think sometimes intangibles are overrated. But I look at like what's going on in Anaheim, what's going on in Chicago, what's going on in Buffalo. Maybe just because you can't quantify it doesn't mean it has no value. I think maybe it's overvalued, but it doesn't have no value.
Let's even take a look across the parking lot over at the Philadelphia Eagles, who a couple weeks ago against Baltimore Ravens, right? The defense has a bad time at the beginning of the game. C.J. Gardner-Johnson gathers everybody up, gives them a motivational speech. They kick butt for the rest of the game. Sometimes you need a guy in there who can just gather all the young guys together and say, hey, we're better than this. Let's wake up and do it.
Playing style-wise, do we need all of Laughton, Paling, and Cates? No. But
somebody's also got to play the fourth line.
Yeah, what he brings off the ice, I do. And I've also made my peace with he ain't going nowhere, so stop talking about it.
It's the fourth line, guys. I'm sorry, you're not going to be playing Michkov level talent on the fourth line. You don't want them playing on the fourth line.
If he's a fourth liner for the next 6 years, I'm fine with it.
It's cool.
It's totally fine. I've always said, I don't know where it is in the lineup, but Scott Laughton always has a place on my team. And nights like tonight, you just go, way to go, dude. Proud of you. Just happy for him.
Frankly, if you're scratching him, can he just hang out on the bench anyway and just be other assistant coach?
Right. Vince Pellegrini
had a great night.
Yeah, just outstanding. Way to go. Way to go, Law. Sorry, from Vince, of course. Why not us? Listen,
there's a lot of reasons.
They are, they've been pretty good against. Honestly, this I think is a little bit of a turnaround from last season. You saw them compete with Vegas, Dallas, play tough against Colorado, and then. What? We're blowing games against these bad teams. What are we doing here? I do like us beating up on Columbus and Detroit in consecutive games. We are better than those teams. We're not a contender, but we are clearly a step above out of the playoff teams. I think that's pretty obvious. All right, from Cinema, is that with a silent P? Cinema. If you score 6 goals, do you throw hats again?
If you got them.
Yeah, I mean, do you save your hat in case, a game with two, that playoff game when Coots and Giroux both had hat tricks again. It was in that crazy 2012 series against Pittsburgh. I thought it was Giroux and Coots both had hat tricks. Are there any hats left for the second one?
I guess you just have to bring 6 hats with you to the game and just be prepared to chuck them.
Maybe you just listen. I threw my hat. I got to go buy another one, and then it's folks, that was.
Everybody invest in cheap orange hats to bring to the game just in case there's multiple hat tricks. Okay, we need to be prepared. The Flyers should be supplying us with this. Okay, there's a hat trick. The Flyers should just be like, here are your hats. Toss them.
They should. They have I think they've changed the hat trick thing they have in the concourse.
Yeah.
Because for years it was that same display. I was like, are they still adding to this? Because there've been hat tricks since then. And then I think Ladies Bra showed up in there. I was like, oh, I think they are still adding to it. Remember that Braden Shen hat trick?
Oh,
Bra Lady threw a bra.
Oh yeah.
But it's maybe recycle them. If there's a second hat trick, okay, start handing those out to the fans. Yeah. Anyway, this next one here from JH. Got to blow that up a little. Thank you. People shouldn't be such surprised that Fedotov is the number 3. The only reason he's here, why he got an absolute bag, was to get Michkov over early. Worth it. There's been that rumor, perhaps that had something to do with it. There was some of this money got handed off somewhere else.
A medium bag. I wouldn't call it an absolute bag. I call it a bag.
Considering his experience, which is 0, and his skill level, or at least his results, which have been bad, it's that's a crazy cap hit. You also have to remember, he was probably making about $3 million in the K. They do real well over there. He ain't gonna take a pay cut. So if you wanted him, you were gonna have to pay him as well. And there's always where some pockets grease to get Mish here early. Probably that's the way that stuff works. But
whatever you got to do, whatever it takes.
If Fedotov's the 3, he's the 3. It was always okay, let's see, we got him. This was a 7th round pick, also.
That's the thing is we were saying this before. You've got this collection of goalies, and because you don't have Hart in there anymore, you have to figure out who your starter is from this group. So give everybody a shot at this point, and let's see what we got. One thing I wanted to add about the Fedotov situation before we wrap up the show is last year, the Flyers kept Felix Sandstrom around. They were afraid he was going to get claimed. There was a possibility because certain teams, namely Tampa Bay, was we don't have a goalie. We're just
throwing whatever out there. They might claim whoever just to have a guy. And then Tampa, Vasilevsky comes back. Their goaltending situation settles, and they put him through waivers. I don't think it's like a super coincidence that the Flyers waited to make their decision until Colorado changed out both goalies. Just a thought. Just a thought.
I mean, you always want to keep a trade chip around just in case. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's foolish not to.
And if you have to put someone through waivers, it's like, we got to do something. He's a goalie. He couldn't. Georgiev did have worse numbers than Fedotov.
Yeah.
He was the only goalie worse.
And, you know, like, look, play smart. Don't, you know, lose assets if you don't have to. And they haven't lost anybody of note this year. So, and whatever. They've been playing all right so far. I mean, like, it is what it is with Fedotov.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we gave him a few games, but yeah.
It's a cool story.
He's kind of a mess.
Listen, if the movie of his life ends with that game against Tampa, beats Vasilevsky, Vazzy going for his 300th win, wins in a goalie duel shootout, like that's a freaking awesome movie. Like that's as good as Rudy. You know, like
I know. I just figured out who should play him in the movie too. It's the guy who plays the cousin on The Bear. Should play Fedotov in the movie.
Oh, I was gonna say Ryan Gilbert because they're the same size.
Oh, they are the same size.
All
Ryan
right,
Gilbert's also as big as Gritty.
and that is all the time we have for you on the PHLY Flyers postgame show presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Just want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. Make sure you are at the Festivus Party on the 23rd. It's at the pub at Xfinity. It's going to be an awesome time. We're starting at 6 o'clock, pregame and postgame show. A lot of fun. Snyder Hockey's going to be there. Festivus is the annual Broad Street Hockey Party that we have adopted here since Charlie and I started with PHLY last year. This thing is a yearly tradition. It's going to be a great time, so come on out. And, of course, on the 28th, after Christmas, we are going to be at Heroes in Glen Mills. It's a Saturday game. It's Michkov v. Cutter. It's going to be a ton of fun, so come on out for that as well. Check all of it out at allphly.com. Just click that events tab. All right, that's really it. Follow us right here on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Hit the reminder bell. Never miss a live show. You know the deal. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. And follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. My name's Bill Matz. That's Steve Jaco. Until tomorrow, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.